We are just days away from the start of training camp, so make sure you are signed up for NewOrleans.Football to get all of our news, analysis, our practice reports, extra podcast, and so much more. Use the code NOF to save 20% on your first payment. Welcome back to another episode of New Orleans Football. We are coming to you from PJ's Coffee, our presenting sponsor, and we are in the mobile Ochsner Health podcast studio. If you have any healthcare needs, make sure you check out their great network. And if you need a new car, hit up my guy, Matt Bowers. He has many dealerships all throughout the region, all different types of cars. The consistent thing at all of his dealerships, though, is the great pricing and customer care. So if you are in the market for a new vehicle, make sure you check him out. We got a great show for you guys today. We're going to get into a bunch of different scenarios, what things are more likely or least likely for the Saints. We're going to keep breaking down training camp and the things we're looking for, and we're going to get into all of that and so much more after this quick word from our great sponsors. Ochsner Health inspires healthier lives and stronger communities through a combination of standard-setting expertise, quality, and connection not found anywhere else in the region. To learn more about how Ochsner empowers people to get well and stay well, visit ochsner.org. Long live you. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Time for a new watch? Go check out Friend & Company Fine Jewelers' wide array of Breitling watches at their showroom on Maple Street. They have every type of watch that you want, and they can get you right for any type of occasion. And while you're there, check out their engagement salon. They'll make sure you find the perfect ring for that special someone. Their experienced staff offer 5-star customer care to help you find the perfect watch, ring, or whatever else you're looking to buy. Visit them today. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, 7713 Maple Street between Adams and Burdett. 504-866-5433, or visit them at friendandcompany.com. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. Their agents are born and raised in the area and understand our community's unique needs and the homeowners insurance crisis our residents are currently in. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. They know your time is valuable, which is why they work diligently to provide you with the quotes as soon as possible. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. When we couldn't find someone to insure our house because of the big oak tree growing over top, Chabert worked until they found someone that would work with us and give us the protection that we need to feel safe in our new home. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hard Hide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show. Welcome back to the mobile Ochsner Health podcast studio, coming to you from PJ's on Airline Highway and Metairie, right across the street from Rouse's. Make sure you check them out. They got all the great drinks, great location here, beautiful new store, and you will have a great time if you come through here. It's time now for the lead presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. There is a monsoon outside, so we're just trying to stay alive right now. Hopefully everybody's safe. But yeah, this is time for the lead presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the official jewelers of the New Orleans Saints. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers should also be your official home for your next Breitling watch. They have all kinds of great watches there. They'll get your wrist looking right, get you on time to everything. And while you're there, check out their new engagement salon. They got a great selection of rings, that special ring for that special someone if you're about to ask that special question.
Wrist looking right. I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one. That's a good one. Let's hit the lead topic, guys. Which scenarios are most likely for the Saints? We're going to go through and say, which one is more likely to happen? Let's hit the list. Number 1, Derek Carr makes the Pro Bowl or Chase Young makes the Pro Bowl. And this isn't like I'm just popping you in
I'm
there.
the seventh alternate.
Right. This is outright, I had a Pro Bowl season, so I made it the Pro Bowl all the way throughout.
So I think the more likely scenario here is I think probably Chase Young. I think even if the Saints have a great season, it's probably hard for Carr to get in there. They would have to win a lot of games for him to get that Pro Bowl recognition ahead of some of the other guys. Like Purdy's probably going to get in there based off a name. There's Dak, there's Stafford, there's Hurts. There's just the Kirk Cousins is in the NFC now. Like it's just he's been in the NFC, but like I think it's just a tough level of competition for him to get there. Like I don't know if Chase Young pops off and gets 10, 11 sacks. Like there's a chance, but the real thing here is I don't think either one of them probably hits that level to make it, but I think the path is a little bit easier.
I'm not just patting myself on the back because I submitted this one, but I think the Vegas odds on these are probably pretty even. Like, Chase Young has the name recognition. If Chase Young gets 11 sacks, I think people will want to reward him. Now he's got a Bosa to deal with. He's got not Micah Parsons because he'd be considered a linebacker. I was thinking there were two guys, Aiden Hutchinson from Detroit, but I actually disagree with you for the exact opposite reason. I think I'm picking Derek Carr, and I think the path is easier. You did name 4 good names there. You said Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, and Jalen Hurts, and then I think it ends there. I don't think Kirk Cousins has more cachet. Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith. I mean, that ESPN list where they had the executives and the scouts ranking everyone, 7 of their top 8 quarterbacks in the NFL, or 8 of their top 9 were AFC quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's not a great conference.
It's easy to get in the NFC. One of those guys, well, like we said, no alternates. I was going to say one of those guys will go to the Super Bowl, but yeah, he could sneak in ahead of a Brock Purdy or a Matthew Stafford, or get in there with Hurts and
Purdy would be my lock because like they're just going to be the team that wins like 13 games,
exactly.
And the quarterback of that team always gets in.
But I think, and I'm not even just talking about the how do they get in, who's in front of him. I think Derek Carr could very easily have like a 30 touchdown, 10 interception efficient season with this team. I mean, he was close to those numbers last year. 100 passer rating, he was close to that number last year. Clint Kubiak gets a little attention for getting this offense a little right. And I don't think it would take that much for him to be considered the third best quarterback in the NFC this year. Jared Goff is another one who I think will get in. But, I think
let me present the big layer to this, though. Like, it's not the Q rating factor thing.
Yeah.
I think it's easier for, like, I think people will be more likely to vote for, like, if they're having similar seasons, Chase Young's having the same equivalent season as Derek Carr. I think people vote for Chase Young more easily than Derek Carr.
I think Chase Young needs a special season, though. Like, to be a standout defensive end, I mean, those guys are – there's some defensive ends with some real cachet. I mean, I think he has to have a standout season. Yeah. I think Derek Carr could get there with a very good season. I don't think very good gets Chase Young in the Pro Bowl. But I do agree that if they both ball out, then Chase Young would be my pick.
My choice has to go to Chase Young because of the reasons Nick stated. He's younger. He's an exciting name to be in there. And, having him in there, it would be great for himself because he needs to have this season. Derek Carr, he's been to that level once before, but I just don't think that he's
only got one?
I think he's
I would have thought he got in I would have guessed a couple times, like, 20 between like
maybe
his first,
one original and
maybe
a
couple alternates.
He got in as an alternate the year that he got cut by the Raiders. Remember, he was joking about it.
Yeah, it was wild. Yeah, but
wait, hold on. While we're on the subject, let's see.
He was like an exciting young quarterback at one point. I would have guessed a couple times at the beginning of his career.
Can you name the 3 defensive ends who made it for the NFC this past year? I named 2 of them already, so that helps. Nick Bosa and Aiden Hutchinson made it. Who was
Montez Sweat?
Yep, you got it. That was it. That was the third guy.
Okay.
And then DeMarcus Lawrence replaced Bosa as an
yeah.
So there's a path there, too. There's only a couple guys who are locks. I think Hutchinson and Bosa get in with normal seasons. They've got that name recognition.
Yeah, but I like I said, I think Chase Young is just – he needs this. He needs to be at this level to be in there. And Carr, like you said, he was close to those numbers last season, but I don't know if those numbers supersede.
You got wins have to come with it.
Right, as everybody else to be able to get there. Now, the next one, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, is it more likely for the Saints to win 6 games or 11?
I think 6 is more likely because there's just so many paths to 6. It's you lose a lot of close games. You're not actually that good. Important players get hurt. But I think my odds on these 2 are even. I mean, I'm right in the middle of these two numbers. I think you said between 7 and 10 when we brought that up the other day. I think 7 is as likely as 10. I think 8 is as likely as 9. I think 6 is as likely as 11.
Yeah.
But I think the floor hovers a little more than the ceiling. Like I don't see a path to 12 unless they just like that Vikings season from a couple years ago where they won every one-score game. Like I think the Saints could very realistically be a 9 or 10 win team, but there's unfortunately a lot of ways that it could fall to 6 with some key injuries.
I'll say 6 because they're going to win 9, so you got to get to the 6 to get to the 9. I don't think they get to 11. I don't think it's only 6 either. I would be. I'll say this: like I think I would be probably more surprised by like 5 or 6 wins than I would 10 or 11 wins.
Yeah,
like
more.
I would
You'd
be
more surprised by 6 than 11.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think they get to 11. But like, I think the floor falling out to 6 would be more shocking to me than them winning 10 or 11.
I think both these numbers would surprise me.
I think they would too.
Yeah.
But
I think they're pretty equal.
I don't think that they are bad enough, and I don't think the coaching will be bad enough for them to win 6 games. Like there would have to be a lot of injuries, and I guess that's like the injury thing is like the most realistic thing that would lower them. I don't know what would elevate them to 11, but I would be damn surprised by I think either one of these outcomes.
I think 7 to 10 is the window that we all believe in.
Now, for me, like I said yesterday, my ceiling is 11, and the floor is right around that 6-ish kind of range, and definitely I'm going to go with 6 because I had them pegged at 8 originally, but then after, some thoughts and seeing things out there during the spring practices, I have them finally finishing at 9. But I think 6 is way more likely than hitting 11 games because so many things have to go right to reach 11 wins for this team. With the early schedule and how hard that is with premier playoff teams in there. And then on the back half, you have teams like Cleveland, who was a playoff team last year. So you have a ways to go before
Plus, if you have 10 wins with a week to go in the NFC South, you're probably resting your starters.
I got 2 questions for y'all. First,
what's up?
Does the coaching staff survive a 6-win season?
I'd need to know what it looked like. I mean, my path to 6 includes like Derek Carr missing 12 games or major injuries that like to the most important players on the team, Olave, and so maybe the coaching staff doesn't get the blame for that. If they're relatively healthy and Carr starts every game and they only win 6, then maybe not.
If they're healthy but the locker room falls apart midway through the season, I think that's going to be one of the key factors.
Second question. Everybody talks about that scenario, the bottom coming out. Let the flip side of it, and we kind of got the other number up there. What would have to happen for DA and the staff to get extended?
Is it time? It'd be after his 3rd season as head coach. Yeah, winning the division with an 11-game season honestly might do it, and it honestly might make Clint Kubiak a head coaching candidate.
It
could. This is. We talked about that when we were discussing some of the possible things to talk, and it pairs with this. I mean. Those are the kind of things that would come along with these 2 extreme results.
I can't have a better answer than that because I completely agree.
Yeah, it would be because it'd be 7, 9, 11. Like that's a good
that's a great jump.
Like if you hit that, yeah. I mean, look, I don't think either one of them happens, but I mean, it would be in the cards. Like I think if he did that, it'd be hard to argue it.
Yeah, for sure. Next scenario: Taysom Hill scores 10 touchdowns, or Jamaal Williams scores 5 touchdowns.
Taysom 10. I can't get to 5. I mean, Jamaal. Like I expect the season to be way better, but they had to do a fake victory formation to get him 1 last year. Like I don't know. Like it's crazy. The disparity between his last 2 seasons, I don't think could be more stark.
Yeah.
Like just in terms of that touchdown production, leads the league. What was it? 17. And then,
17.
And then he had to do a fake victory formation to get 1 last year. Yeah. And, like, the thing for him to get the 5, it would mean that they would have to be taking the ball away from Taysom in those situations.
That's the answer.
And I don't think you want to take the ball away from Taysom in those situations.
Believe it or not, did you know this? Did you look this up in your research for this answer? Taysom's never gotten 10. That kind of surprised me. He's gotten 9 twice. Gotten 7 once, 6 last year. So, and Jamaal just had – but the answer totally depends on what's the coaching staff's philosophy when you're inside the 2-yard line. Is that former coaches, both Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael, without Sean Payton, liked Taysom in those situations. Mm-hmm. Does this new coaching staff want the traditional running back? Then Jamaal Williams might get there easily. But I'm going to go with Taysom too, because I think he will be in those short yardage running situations, and I think he might catch 5 too as well.
That was going to be
with
my
the tight
point.
end.
Right. It's not just 10 rushing touchdowns. It's 10 total touchdowns. And I think with the way we saw him utilizing this offense during the practices, it's just going to only expand as the season goes on. So he's going to have a lot of opportunities to get in the end zone, whether that's rushing or whether that's receiving. So I definitely think it's way easier for Taysom to hit 10 touchdowns versus Jamaal, kind of recovering his career and getting to 5. Next scenario, Peyton Turner finds new life or Trevor Penning finds new life.
These are all long shot questions.
Nobody wants to go first?
I mean, Trevor Penning, all he has to do is be pretty good. He's got the opening already. Peyton Turner doesn't have the opening. He's 4th at best on the defensive end depth chart right now. Yeah. And Isaiah Foskey might make him 5th on the defensive end depth chart right now. But I'm just betting on Peyton Turner. I just really have. All Peyton Turner has to do is stay healthy to me. Mm-hmm. And if Peyton Turner had a Tano Passanio-like season, I think we'd all be really excited about that. Right. I think the Saints would be really excited about that. I think they'd re-sign him if he did that. And I think all he has to do is stay healthy. They're both injury risks. Peyton Turner's the one I'm betting on if they're both on the field.
Like, define life. Are we talking like thriving and making like contributions?
Like
to
staying
society?
on the Saints?
Or are we just talking about like, well, we'll keep them going because the technology can do that? Like, what are we talking about here?
We're talking about you're penciling them into your 2025 depth chart, and you're like, this guy's really part of the team. He did it.
I'll go with Peyton Turner. I'll go with Peyton Turner because the curve for him, for me, is just it's the health aspect.
Yeah, right.
Like, Penning has to figure out how to like block. He's got to figure out like a lot. So for me, it's Peyton Turner because Penning has to solve the health factor and figure out how to play. Like, I don't think Peyton Turner.
He needs to figure out how to play.
Health
has been the big thing. But we've rarely ever even seen him play football.
But we've seen him make a play.
Yes.
It's
tough. The only reason to pick Penning for me would be the fact that when we show up in California next week, he's going to be in with the starting lineup, and Turner might be with the 3s. To be honest, probably the 2s, but other than that, I'm betting on Turner.
Okay, so a sneaky thing here though, if they're both kind of shaky, there's at least a way for Turner to still play. If there's a shaky factor, you could knock Turner down the depth chart, but he's still going to get some snaps. If Penning falls out of his spot, he's done. There isn't a rotation where he's they're okay, we'll get him 7 snaps a game because he's okay in this situation.
No.
So I think Turner just has I think the floor is a little bit different too on both these guys. But if it's just wstraight up who's going to play more, I don't know. That's a tough one because again, Penning might just get
Who'd you draft right now? You get an expansion
Turner.
draft. You get one of these guys on your team. You'd rather have Turner on your team.
Easy.
Yeah. And that's why I'm going with Peyton Turner because Trevor Penning, he, like you said, the fundamentals, he has to learn how to block. He has to learn how to put himself in a position to even be on the field at some point in the period, whether that's starting at tackle, whether that's coming in as an extra blocker, whether that's even on the field goal team as just a edge. He has to find a way to be on there. Yeah. So I'm going to put more in Peyton Turner just staying healthy, avoiding the injury bug, and having new life through this team.
Yep.
That's totally fair.
I just can't do it with Penning. At this point. And finally, A.T. Perry or Kendre Miller become the next Rashid Shaheed level breakout, which was more likely.
I'm still going to bet on Kendre. I know.
Okay.
I know we didn't see it in the spring. We haven't heard that they're seeing it internally in the spring. Mm-hmm. But I've seen enough flashes, and I also like his path. If Kendre looks like he's looked at his best moments, he could be running back 1 by October on this team. A.T. Perry, all A.T. Perry can be is probably receiver 3, and I'm not even sure he'll do that.
Right.
Kendre just has to find the on switch. If he finds the on switch, he's running back 1 by the end of the season, I think. Will he do it? I don't know. I'm not betting that either one of these guys will do it. I see a clearer path for Kendre. They want Kendre to do it.
More weight can easily fall on Kendre, like you just said. to produce like a lot more weight. He can be running back one if he shows little spurts and pieces that he can do that. They'll thrust that responsibility on him. A.T. Perry, he's going to be looked at as a blocker and a contested catch receiver at some points, but it's not going to be like, oh, we have to move the offense through you. So I would say A.T. Perry, just because he responded in those spring practices when St. Brown was showing up. He came, I remember that last day or so, we were out there and he made that catch in the back of the end zone, and he was like hollering because it was like, yeah, I'm that dude still. So that's why I'm going to have to roll with A.T. Perry on this one. But if Kendre Miller could get it going, great shape. That's a great shape to be in for the Saints as a team.
I don't think either one of them for this, honestly.
Sure. Well, you have to pick one. We don't think any of these 10 things are going to happen on this list. All right, that's the next question
Rashid
after
level
this.
Breakout,
Yeah, Rashid didn't do that much.
That's
750 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm trying to define
and putting
that.
him in our top 15 players on the roster.
Well,
next
something has
year,
to go. Something would have to go wrong for either one of these guys to have that opportunity to get to that level because they're both blocked at their spots. Mm-hmm. And then even then, I think
Not
it's
necessarily. We put Shaheed in our top 20 last year after they played him 10 snaps a game the year before. Just somebody who we're super excited about.
He was going into the season. He was wide receiver 2 on a team that was using a lot of 11 personnel.
Yeah.
For Kendre to get to 700, like something would have to probably go wrong with Alvin for him to have that opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Like I feel like if they both get the opportunity, like Kendre's going to get there easier by default, but. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't think either one gets there. But I like AT's ceiling right now more than I like Kendre's ceiling.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. So you didn't want to answer, but you ended up with an answer. There we go.
So.
Is there any one of these 10 things on this list before we wrap it up that you would actually bet money will happen?
If I had to put money on one thing happening, there's two. I think, it's abstract. The one I'm going to pick is the Peyton Turner finding new life.
That was my pick.
That's the one that I would probably feel like. But and then Taysom scoring 10. Like if I had to pick any of them, like Taysom scoring 10 would probably be my next one.
Those two aren't bad. We'll go Derek Carr Pro Bowl.
Come on.
Derek Carr Pro Bowl.
All right. Well,
Clint Kubiak, I trust probably way too much.
I'm going with the Taysom 10. I don't want to pick the same one as you, Nick, so I'm going to flip. I'm going to pick Peyton Turner finding new life as my first thing that probably will happen. And then second, Chase Young makes the Pro Bowl. Because if he comes back healthy, he's playing for that money, so he's going to have the proper motivation.
He'd have so much hype behind him, too, if he has a good season.
Coming back from for sure.
He's back. That's comeback player of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
If he's a Pro Bowler, he's in that conversation.
Well, Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. You got that's a full list. That's a full list.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. Well, now it's time to get into our next segment presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Nick, you dropped an article detailing how the offense is going to use more 21 personnel. Kind of break that down and just give the people a flavor of what was in there.
Yeah, that's just kind of that's how they operate. It's interesting because all the Shanahan teams use a lot of this, and that's Miami, Houston, San Francisco are the ones kind of with the direct ties to it. And it's just kind of fascinating because they're killing teams with it. They're getting a lot of yards per play out of it. They're passing well out of it. I don't think it's just an easy anecdote, though, for every team to use it. You have to have a fullback that kind of earns it, and that's kind of the key to the whole thing. I think the Saints got a nice twist on it with Taysom in that they can, use him in different ways, and you could come out and look like you're in 12 personnel with him at tight end, and if they counter it a certain way, you can shift, and you can, it just kind of offset that nickel aspect of it. But that's the thing that they kill teams with, though. You get in 21, teams are coming out in nickel. You have a fullback that can dictate matchups a little bit, and you can just kind of kill them with it. And that's really San Francisco's just murdering teams with it because they got Juszczyk in that. I think Taysom can do some of it, but it just kind of blows my mind, though, that it isn't more of a thing because teams, they don't spend time on their base personnel. They don't have 17 different blitz packages out of their base personnel. They don't have a bunch of coverages they're getting to out of their base personnel. It's kind of okay, we're going to play this 12 times a game, so we're going to spend 12 minutes on it, and we're going to have 3 looks in the front and a couple in the back, and it's just then you play these couple teams, and they're just keeping you in it the whole game, and you show your hand, and now they're just killing you with it. And I think that's going to kind of be some of the stuff we see on this offense. We used to talk about Sean kind of doing all this stuff. I think this is the evolution to the next level of matchup based football when you kind of watch these teams.
I mean, think about it with the Saints. I mean, even they just kind of openly talk about when we said, hey, is there a chance you'll use 3 linebackers more? And they said that's matchup based. If you'd done this to the Saints last year, you were getting Zach Bone on the field instead of Alontae Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, why not? And then obviously we've said, how many times have we said the phrase play action ever since they hired Clint Kubiak?
Yeah.
I mean, just the play action you can do when the teams are not matching your personnel because they've got the third linebacker on the field, and then you can pass against that look. I think it fits this team and what this team's limitations really well.
Yeah, with the new coaching staff and I mean, I know people say Taysom Hill is a Swiss Army knife, but like his ability to just do whatever is needed and called upon, I think that'll be a great thing for the Saints team this year, just to capitalize on their strengths and be able to evolve as an offense. But if you want to hear more from the professor, make sure you subscribe to NewOrleans.Football /subscribe. That'll give you access to be able to read all the articles that we drop throughout training camp and more. But it's now time for
Hold up, though. But for people that don't know, 21 personnel, it's 2 running backs that's on the field. That's always how the numbers go. The first number is the amount of backs. The second number is the number of tight ends. And then it's got to add up to 11. You got 5 offensive linemen. So then the final number is the number of wide receivers. So, like, when it's 11, it's 1 tight end, 1 running back, 3 receivers. So 21 is just 2 backs, 1 tight end. And then Taysom's the one that can flip those numbers because he can go from tight end. So you can go from 12 to 21 without changing.
We saw a lot of that. We saw a lot of
Yeah.
that. They weren't afraid to show that in camp where he was lined up as a fullback, shifted into the tight end spot, before the ball was snapped. So.
Yep. Well, now it's time for our next segment presented by Shopper Insurance, the Earhart Agency. Let's talk about the money, man. Let's see who's going to get paid. During this time, a lot of players, they seem to get extensions on their contracts. But now it's time to people to kind of show, hey, man, I'm worth the money. Pay me. So who do you think is more likely to get extended and the price might go up?
Well, I mean, the most likely probably coming into the season is it would be Paulson. I think would probably be the most likely because Pete Werner's fighting for his job at this point. Juwan Johnson's fighting an injury at this point, and frankly, I don't think he's lived up to the last contract to this point. So I think he's got work to do there. I think there's things about this offense that'll favor him, and maybe he does if he gets healthy. Talking about Yak, I mean, like him, Alvin, and Taysom are like really their only Yak players on the whole team. So maybe that favors him a little bit. But is there anyone I'd try to resign? No one. Because I mean, there's a possibility like Paulson probably stays the same or like regresses. I don't know how much better he builds on last year. I'd be willing to make that gamble on it. And I'd want to see it again. Like he's had 1 out of 3. So I'd want to see 1 more before I do it. But if I had someone, he'd be the one I bet on. I think he is going to have a good season. But I just don't know that like getting ahead of it right now, you save a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, guys they've done this with recently, Carl Granderson, they got ahead of that a little bit. I don't know if he came a little cheaper than he would if they let him become a free agent. It ended up kind of even after he had a little quieter second half last season. Cesar Ruiz and Eric McCoy were the others. And I think they did save money. The guard prices went way up. I mean, they got Cesar Ruiz at $11 million a year, and we have free agent guards making $20 million a year this year, so that was probably smart. Yeah, you could get Pete Werner and Juwan Johnson at super discounts right now, I think. If I'm Werner, I'm betting on myself. I don't want to be a free agent if I'm Werner right now. Adebo is the only one I'd consider it with. I think internally the Saints recognize how good Adebo is and how valuable he was when Marshawn was gone. I think the Saints know what their long-term plans vision might be for Marshawn Lattimore. And I mentioned that ESPN executives list again. It was just kind of a way to know what how he's viewed around the league by scouts, coaches, executives. Paulson Adebo didn't even get a also mentioned. Like he wasn't in the 20 plus names that they listed on that. So I don't think he's broken through to that threshold yet. So maybe you could throw something at like 12, 13 million a year at Paulson Adebo and get him now under 15 million a year. I think if he had another year like last year, he might price himself out of New Orleans. So he's the only one I'd consider maybe.
If you're the Saints, do you even pay for that position considering how well like they've drafted and identified and gotten usable talent in the second,
if I could pay that in that range. Yeah. If I could pay Paulson and keep it under 15 million a year and then be like, let's definitely trade Marshawn next year and we drafted Kool-Aid now. I don't want to go into next year and lose Paulson and Marshawn.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't disagree. It's just like the idea of like, do I spend money or go to the draft? Like I feel like they drafted so well.
I'd keep one of them. I'd be thinking we're only keeping one of those two for that reason.
I'd want to see how the season goes too to decide if I even want to invest there. Because like if I'm an average sinking team, I might want to throw my money somewhere else and go to the draft for my other guy, or maybe Alante and Kool-Aid's it, and it's not.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's an interesting spot.
Paulson is going to be my pick also, but I didn't think about what you said about maybe going back and just seeing what's in the draft at that position. I never thought about it like that.
If you don't have to allocate your it was kind of like they did it so well at safety, and then they started spending money at safety, and I thought that was kind of like a wild thing to do. Yeah. I mean, cornerbacks are tough to find and replace, but like it seems like, I don't know, if the Saints had to draft a starter, that might be one of the positions where I would feel most confident in their ability to do it.
Yeah, Mike, I was kind of, wanted you to kind of build on your thoughts on Pete Werner because you picked Pete Werner to win his job.
Yeah, if I'm the Saints, I think I'd feel comfortable offering him a little something while his value is low. But if I'm Pete Werner, I think I bet on myself right now because, an off the ball linebacker with one career interception, one career sack, he's not going to move the needle for anybody. Maybe he's probably looking at like Alex Anzalone and AJ Klein kind of interest on the free agent market right now. So I think I'd want to have the season that he probably believes he can have, and then go to the unless they paid him, I don't know. What was Juwan's deal that 1 year, like 2 years, $8 million a year or something? Maybe they'd offer him something like that. But if I'm Pete Werner, I'd probably bet on myself instead of just trying to sign a cheap.
No, he'd be crazy to sign right now.
Yeah. Well, if you want to be the top Saints fan, make sure you bet on yourself and subscribe to NewOrleans.Football because we have everything you need. We're gonna go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll have more analysis and the Martin's questions of the day. Keep it locked to NewOrleans.Football.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana. They were founded in 1980 and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. And Total Maintenance wants to show some love to our NOF listeners. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. It will never increase. Total Maintenance has a tune-up special running this summer for $79, down from the normal price of $179. This is a one-time offer for one system only. They also offer a free diagnostic on second opinions on units deemed to be unrepairable. And they offer free estimates for replacements as well as commercial maintenance programs. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of stepping into your dream home. At Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, we can help make that dream a reality with a team dedicated to you. When you partner with Jefferson Financial, you do so for the life of the loan. Having a single point of contact when questions arise is invaluable. Our experts are here to guide you every step of the way. There's no better time to invest in your future. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender.
Shrimp Remoulade combos are back at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Zesty shrimp remoulade served with fried shrimp, catfish, or soft-shell crab starting at $10.99. Or try one of our spring specials, catfish lafitte or lemon caperfish with crab meat. Now at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
Welcome back to the Mobile Ochsner Health Podcast Studio here at 2600 Airline Drive. It is now time for our next segment presented by Hard High Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. Last segment we talked about getting paid, and Juwan Johnson was on that list. He's going to be out for about the next month or so. Should we be really concerned about the tight end position with him not being there?
Yeah, big.
I am very much
big concern.
I was concerned
before
he got here.
Yeah, like I think Foster can have a better season. I think there's definitely more there. There was a lot he was going through. Obviously he had the cancer diagnosis before the season. I think that probably sets back a little bit. It just there were some other ailments. Like there was just stuff that he was battling throughout the year. I think that the level of chemistry between him and Carr, like I was a little bit surprised that it looked a little iffy at first, but they kind of found it a little bit later. But I think him just having a clear offseason, runway, all that stuff, things can be better.
And you just listed all the tight ends that we know about.
Yeah. I like the possibility of Dallin Holker. He's undersized. He's going to have to show he can do it in the NFL. Wasn't drafted for a reason. Michael Jacobson has showed some positive signs in OTAs and minicamp. Don't know enough about him. I mean, if Juwan doesn't get up to speed when he gets back from the fractured foot, I mean, they are in a very, very perilous situation pretty quickly at that position, and it's a position that they like to lean on in this offense. So, I mean, there is a lot to worry about with that group.
I mean, Taysom Hill's still part of that mix, and I think this will actually lead to even more snaps, more opportunity for Taysom Hill. But just based on what we saw in camp, too, I think both Taysom Hill and Dallin Holker feel like tight ends / fullbacks.
Yeah.
They're both pass catchers first, not guys you can count on to block. Foster Moreau is the only one on the team that, even when Juwan Johnson's back, Foster Moreau's the only reliable blocker on the team. I just don't know what they're going to do with this position.
I don't like the idea. If Taysom's my top pass catcher at tight end, I don't have a good pass catcher at tight end. I don't. If that's his primary value to the team, I don't like that.
I like using him as a creating, like I said. I mean, creating mismatches thing, getting him lined up against certain guys or whatever.
It's the whole though. Like if you're leaning on that and that's your kind of I don't like it.
Yeah, if you get to the point where you make Taysom like his one position, like you're this position and dominated this position.
Go
you in the
Travis Kelce, like no,
you're in
like,
a tough
you
spot.
Getting it.
You're in a real tight spot. So I think there is more to be learned about this position throughout training camp. Like Foster is going to have to, he's going to have to skyrocket up his skill.
He's got to have his best season. Really, I think he does.
Yeah, he definitely does. Because I mean, you look like you got something on your mind about your boy.
No, well, I was just going to say, I mean, like. Who do we need to see what from to keep them from being like we've got to make a move and bring someone else in here?
Who?
I almost have to trade for something.
Like there aren't like a lot of good like pass catching tight ends.
Agent list like you've ever seen. Yeah, but like, I mean, does this offense need like a blocking first tight end? I mean, you could probably get one of those guys for free. I mean, what was Nick Van Ette back in the day? Or, you know, like. Are they okay without a player like that? Especially since they don't have it at receiver necessarily either. I mean, maybe they just means guys like Cedric Wilson and Equanimeous St. Brown are on the field more. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means to have one tight end who can block on your entire 90-man roster.
The other guy they brought in, I don't know a ton about him. Like maybe he's part of that equation.
But he mostly just played special teams in his career too. So. Like when they brought in 4 or 5 veteran free agents after Juwan got hurt, auditioned them all, and I assumed when I read the bio of the guy they picked, it was going to be like was used as a blocker. That guy like never saw the field on offense. So I don't know what they're.
The thinness at blocking is what kept St. Brown on my 53-man roster because
totally fair.
You have to have it. You have to have it. You can't make it without it. Well, now it's time for our Martin Wine and Spirits question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel-select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. Today's first question is, what are you expecting to see during training camp?
Well, there was a longer version of this question, right? It was following up on how we acknowledged last year that we bought into the hype a little of seeing how good the offense looked, and then it didn't translate into the regular season. So what are we looking for now? You mentioned like you kind of learned what to look for. How will we know that what are the tangible things to look for in training camp to be like, all right, this offense is actually picking it up? What are the real clues, I guess, to instead of just being like, oh, we saw a touchdown to Chris Olave, everything's good.
It's a tough question to answer. I mean, my biggest question with the team is going to be the offensive line blocking, and I don't know that there's proof positive of that to be found in training camp. Like, it's just even when they're hitting, they aren't really hitting. Like, it's never really, really live in training camp, and that's going to be the impossible thing to judge. I think it's going to take those San Francisco practices are where you're going to kind of really start to see it a little bit more, a little bit in the preseason games, obviously, but that's my biggest question on the whole entire team. And I think we're just going to evaluate what we can evaluate. But, like, Derek Carr actually getting hit and how he responds to it, like, what's that going to look like? If the pressure's coming off the right side and he's actually taking real hits, like, is it him and Trevor Penning fighting coming off the field one day? Like, those are the things that you kind of gotta see in a real situation. And the biggest question on this team, I don't know that there's 100% answer. Like, you're going to watch and hopefully see signs of life. Hopefully you're going to see Trevor Penning moving the right way, see him not falling, into the neutral zone as he was doing in minicamp and OTAs, like having trouble getting into his stance. Yeah. Run plays, him kind of like diving back to try to get in position and losing his balance. Like, hopefully you're not seeing those kind of things and you're seeing steps towards something, but I don't know that there's ever going to be like a grand conclusion, on August 8th or whatever it is before that first preseason game where we really know anything about that offense.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some obvious things that they did look good last summer, and I believed in it, and I'm not going to take that back. It's not like 20 training camps in a row. I've said they look great. They're going to be great. I believed in some of the things we saw last year. We all saw it in the first preseason game too. It was like that's exactly what it looked like in practice for weeks. But a couple of the things we realized, like, you're not seeing sacks in practice, so you're seeing 2nd and 18. Yeah. You're not seeing the run play on first down that lost yardage, so you're not seeing 2nd and 11. Like, a lot of the things that derailed this team once the season started are things that in a scripted practice you don't see. You don't see them behind the 8 ball a lot in practice. How do they react to being behind the 8 ball? So that is stuff we won't know for sure. But, yeah, offensive line synchronicity. It'll be as much talking to people that we trust behind the scenes, on the record, off the record. We had Eric McCoy in studio. He's as honest as it comes. James Hurst used to be as honest as it comes. They would acknowledge, every day there's like one guy who's not quite can get it, but we're going to get there. You hear that as opposed to it's amazing. Like, this is the best we've ever felt. You know who to believe that when you hear it from. And just buy-in. I mean, that was the most encouraging thing, I think, from OTAs and minicamp is the level of excitement and buy-in from a lot of guys on offense that was different than what we've heard in the last couple games. No doubt.
Yeah, I mean, the thing last year, though, too, is the biggest determining factor last year on offense was Carr responding to pressure. Like, when things are clean, it looks clean. Like, so it was impossible to see that. So I think that's the biggest learning lesson, though, is just knowing that quarterback. And when things get messy, that's kind of where you got to evaluate him. Like, when things are good, he's going to look good. It's that messiness that kind of defines who he is.
My answer originally was going to be confidence in different positions on the offensive line, mainly at guard and at tackle. But I like the word you use, synchronicity, because that's what's really important about the offensive line. It's a unit. I mean, collectively as a team, they're a unit, but the offensive line as a whole, it has to be a unit, or else somebody's going to miss their responsibility and get the quarterback sacked. So synchronicity is a real good way of summarizing it.
Do you remember that movie Multiplicity from the 90s?
Yeah, it was a wild movie.
It's a wild time, man. That was a wild time.
Wasn't even here. Don't know nothing about it.
Like, I don't know, they cloned them like 800 times. There's probably some stuff that wouldn't fly in today's
I've
culture.
thought of that movie. Yeah, okay. No, I've thought of that movie a lot since I started working with Nick. Nick feels like a guy if he had the opportunity to make 2 Nicks. The problem in Multiplicity
we don't need another one of those running around.
The problem in Multiplicity is like the one guy worked all the time, so the one guy could be like all the Knicks would just work 100 hours. Like none of the Knicks would ever take a vacation or go play golf or anything like that.
We don't need another one of those.
So how did they know who was the original? Was that like a problem in the movie? Like
I don't. I didn't study it. In like
okay.
It's been about 30 years.
There were some issues. There were some of the issues that didn't fly.
For sure.
Leave it in the 90s, man. Yeah. We do it right in the 2000s. Yeah. All right. The next question is, how many points per game would it take for the Kubiak hire to be considered a success?
How many points per game? I mean, it's just wins, really. It's just wins. I think that's points per game. I mean, look, they averaged a decent amount last year. Like you get to like
they were 9th in the league last year.
You get to like 26 or something. Like you're high up in the league.
Yeah.
So I don't know that number really has to change drastically. It's just how does it look? How does it feel? How does it?
What does matter? I picked this question because I was going to say the same thing. Like, points isn't the right judge. What is it? First of all, while you think about this, tell me what is your best gauge. This is the wildest stat probably ever in my history of covering the Saints. Do you know they ranked top 9 in the NFL in points scored and points allowed last year?
Last year?
Isn't that shocking?
Yeah.
They were 8th in points allowed and 9th in points scored last year. So that's not the right gauge because it's got to look better than it looked.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. That's really what it is. If they average 24 again and won 10 games, like huge success.
Wins.
You know, yeah,
It's
it's wins.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see efficiency stats. I'm not looking for big points. I'm not looking for big yards. I'm looking for low turnovers. I'm looking for low sacks.
Yeah.
I'm looking for not 31st in the NFL in yards per carry.
Third down percentage.
Yeah. But yards per carry is the first thing I want to see go up, and yeah, I mean, I don't want to see a lot of sacks and turnovers, and I'm actually not worried about sacks and turnovers. That's always been a strength of Derek Carr, and I think this offense even lends itself more to being more risk averse. So, yeah.
Using your word against synchronicity, if they're in sync at the receivers, at running back, on the offensive line, at quarterback, well, it's just one quarterback, but you know what I mean? If they're all locked in and everything is humming like it's supposed to be, they should definitely.
You give me top 16 in yards per carry. I'm telling you, they're in the playoffs.
Come on,
that?
That's what it takes.
That? Top 16 in yards per carry. They're in the playoffs. That's my number.
That's my
number one number.
I ride with that.
All right.
Yeah, I ride with that.
Yards per carry.
Yeah, the play action's going to work off that.
Yeah,
means the offensive line's not a total disaster.
Okay,
that's my number.
I'll ride with you on that, but I'll add in top half in carries and yards per carry.
Come on, stipulations.
Sure.
Yeah,
It means they're able to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ran 10 times before they were down by 28 points and had to throw in the entire second.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know I've been harping on it all show, but if you were thinking about straddling the fence, make sure you subscribe to Football because training camp is coming up, and you
never
want
get
to
more
be
bang
locked
for your
in.
buck. We charge double in training camp, right?
Nope. $9.
$9 gets you locked in to everything you want to know about the Saints. We appreciate y'all for stopping by today. Overtime is next. Catch you next time.